In the recruitment, you always want to show your points. And if it is internally in the club, or if it's to the player, or if it's to another club, you want to show what you've seen in a player. So often if you do observations live and you see, okay, here we have a player with the potential to become a good finisher, and I want to showcase that, then we need more repetitions. And their eyeball can be great because we have access to material that we don't have the access to on a live basis.
Mikkel, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
To start, maybe you can give, I know you of course, but
yeah.
You can give everyone a little introduction about you, and we'll also love to hear about your personal story. You've been here quite a while and you are one of the recognized faces of the club, so it would be nice just to get a nice intro of you, my friend.
Yeah, of course. My name is Mikkel Køhler. I've been in Copenhagen now for 8 years, starting scouting at the under 11 or the 12 level, and last 5-6 years as the head of recruitment of the talent department, focusing on Denmark and the Nordic countries, and now the new emerging markets that we are looking into. So working closely together with Sune Schmidt Nielsen, the director of development, and all our great staff here at FCK Talent.
And you, as a head of recruitment, do you oversee every single player that comes in? Do you have to give your green light, or can you run us through a little bit how the recruitment process
Definitely.
works?
My responsibility starts from the under 14s. So of course, before under 14 we have really good people that takes care of building the core of the squads. Mm-hmm. And then we add top talents after that, both in our local area and in our international markets. So and I'm involved together with several people in all the players that comes in.
Let's talk a little bit about eyeball.
Yeah.
Can you give me your definition of eyeball? So if somebody asks you, somebody doesn't know what eyeball is, how would you describe it best?
I would describe it as a platform that allows us to get more insight on the players through video and data. Often video we would not have been able to get if we wouldn't have had eyeball, as well as footage we would not be able to see live. So basically it's a tool that we use to support our existing scouting process.
And speaking about video, as you said, you've been in the scouting industry for a while. How did you see the change from really only live scouting to the addition of video to that whole process?
No, but there's no doubt that in regards to youth players, especially, this is a market that's been changing a lot, because when I started 7-8 years ago, it was non-existent. Then we were relying only on the live observations of the players. But now also, we have to be honest, the budget for youth players, the transfer fees that are paid in world football for youth players, it's increasing. So I think it's natural that the focus on getting even more thorough information on each player is natural. For us, eyeball is playing a key part because you allow us to see games that we wouldn't be able to see otherwise.
Okay, that's interesting. So speaking about that, can you run us through, so of course eyeball now covers, as you know, more than 25 countries internationally. Can you run us through which countries you guys subscribe to, and how a little bit you're using it? So what is the focus for you guys?
I mean, there's no doubt that FC Copenhagen is a Scandinavian club. Yep. We're an international club, but our fundament and our base is in Scandinavia, here in Copenhagen. So very important for us is Denmark. It's our own backyard, it's our bread and butter, it's where we need to be the strongest and the best. And then the Nordic countries are super important. It is in the seasons where we are most successful, we've had 7-8 players in the starting lineup in the first team of Nordic origin, and it's still like that in most seasons. So markets like Sweden, Norway, Finland and Iceland, it's super important to us. We don't prefer one over the other. It's a matter of where the potentially best players are. So obviously these countries are part of our package. And then I don't want to disclose our emerging markets, but we have a few more markets in your platform, I can say that, and you know that as well. And these are markets we're exploring. But one thing is for sure, when FC Copenhagen enters a market, we want to do it with a certain appeal, a certain knowledge, and the power to make a difference. So hopefully we will see that in the coming years.
Do you feel that with eyeball you get, of course you spoke about video, you spoke about data, with the news section, do you feel also you can get more than that, which means access to information sometimes?
For me, scouting is knowing as much as possible about the player. And to be fair, maybe half of our scouting process is about the ability on the ball or the physical ability. For us, it's a matter of tactical potential. How good are you at learning? How does your life skills look like? What is your mentality as a player? So the more information you can get, the better. And there's no doubt that your new tools on the platform, it allows us to know even more about the individual player.
Speaking about the platform, when do you feel that you're using it the most? Is it to identify players that you did not know? Or is it also just as much to say no to recommendations? Because you must get a lot of recommendations every day. How much more efficient can you be when having to assess this information on players?
I will say the most players we identify, because we know our core markets that well, is players we identify ourselves within the organization. So eyeball can be early part of the process by being where you follow up on one live scouting, or it can be more thorough where you go in depth with one specific player before signing. And if you want to, let's say, do a video package for the board before buying a player, eyeball can support us in different part of the processes, but mainly it is to support the live observations or the network that we already had on one specific player.
Do you have a specific, if you can tell a story, an example of maybe a moment where having access to some videos on the platform either saved you a trip or made you save a lot of time? Do you have can you think of an example like this that you can share with us?
No, but one of our strengths as a club is good decision-making processes, and that's very important. And sometimes in football, it's about being there first, and it's about acting fast. And there's no doubt that often we are there live with the right timing, because we have many years of experience where to be when. So when we've seen a player once and we like what we see, we can often go directly back, and through the platform we can get even better knowledge of the player, and that allows us to take the second step maybe a little bit faster.
Eyeball as a new tool, has it demanded from you a shift in how you structured your week or the week of your team or the time they spend every day? Or has it just been a really smooth integration that didn't need a really adapting, it was just adding to the normal workflow?
Yeah, we've always been using time on technical scouting, even in the youth. Okay. But obviously, the more technical tools you have available, including video, the more time one individual can spend on this. So there's no doubt that we during the week, from Monday to Friday, where it's limited amount of live games, then we spend more time on the technical scouting than we did years ago. Also thanks to eyeball. So we definitely spend more time on the video than we did in the past.
How and when did you learn about eyeball, and what was your first impression, in total honesty, when you heard about it?
No, of course, I had an early meeting with you and your partner Mikkel, and we thought from the beginning that it was a very exciting project, and we all along we knew that if you could succeed with this, then it would be really interesting for us. Yeah. But of course, you've never seen something like this before, and it takes a lot of clubs, it takes a lot of players to think this is a good idea. But I also knew that if somebody could persuade all these people, it was you. So I was positive from the start.
But there's still some people that are not persuaded,
yeah.
And that's of course normal. Do you understand why some clubs are still reluctant to make the step to integrate video scouting to their process in youth scouting?
Definitely, I understand, because if you're not in a position where you can take advantage of this, I understand as a club that you don't want to invest. And some clubs, they base their recruitment much more locally, and then it might be less necessary to use a product like eyeball. But I think for a club of our size, which is the only thing I can speak about, then it's very useful.
How often do you use it? And do you have someone that uses it on a more regular basis? And do you have, I speak with a lot of clubs, and everyone has a different way of making the most out of it. Do you have specific times in the week that are focused on the platform, or is it a bit more random? Can you give a bit of insights on your use of the platform?
I will say it's we have scouts that are using the platform on a daily basis, but also it's very much case to case. What do we need on this specific player? Do we need more video? Do we need to see him live? So when we use it, it can be basically any time, and as I said, at any point of a process around the player, eyeball can be useful.
And you said you were also using it because the process when you see a player that you like, I assume you have to convince someone, or maybe more than one person.
Sometimes.
How has the videos you could find on Eyeball, has that helped you in the past, maybe in the past year that you have used the platform? Have you had moments where it has helped you build a report on a player and convince someone in the club?
In the recruitment, you always want to show your points, and if it is internally in the club, or if it's to the player, or if it's to another club, you want to show what you've seen in a player. So often if you do observations live and you see, okay, here we have a player with the potential to become a good finisher, and I want to showcase that, then we need more repetitions, and their Eyeball can be great because we have access to material that we don't have the access to on a live basis.
Where do you feel Eyeball can improve? And where do you hope it goes within the next? Because you've seen the evolution, right, since the very start. Where do you feel it can still improve now? And where do you see the evolution? Where do you hope it goes for you specifically as a club in your markets, maybe?
I think Eyeball has a great potential, and I think it's already very useful. Of course, the more players you get on the platform, the more games, the more history, the more data over the years, the more useful it becomes. Mm-hmm. Right now it's still a new product, and it can help us right now a lot in the moment. And I think in 3 to 5 years, we can also use the history of Eyeball, both in regards to the data, the players and the games that are played, to compare with present times and use it for the future.
Speaking about evolution, we always, as you know, we're always working on new features.
Yeah.
And there's a feature I haven't told you about. I wanted to do it on camera.
Right.
We are working, so historically Eyeball has been very club focused, right? So you can find videos of players in their club that are not available on other platforms. We are now working on a national team section. How do you feel that can probably help the product, seeing a player, being able for you to watch a player in his club, but also in the national team? This is something that we will launch in a few months.
It sounds very interesting, and for me it's always about knowing as much as you can about the player. And sometimes in the national team the level is higher. We've had players that play at a quite low level on a daily basis, but are picked for the national team, so you can see him in a level that's more similar to what we have in our environment, as well as maybe a different style of play. Maybe you play one kind of winger in your club, a different kind of winger in the national team, or even a different position. So that can be very useful for us, I'm sure.
We launched a few months back now. We were very video focused in the start. We added the data part to things. Can you run me through what you think about that data section on the platform?
I think in general data is a part of the future of scouting and recruitment, and I believe data becomes more useful the more data you have. So I'm pretty sure that for us, your data set will be more useful in 3 years than it is right now. But the idea we like, we look at it still now, we have it in consideration, but I'm sure in the future it will be an even more powerful tool.
And finally, do you have an Eyeball success story that you can share with us? You don't need to name names or...
I mean, we've definitely, as I think I mentioned also, we've had players where we see them live, because that's the best thing, right? Seeing a player live, you can feel the tempo, you can feel the quality of the touches a lot more. You can see where the player is running also when the camera when he's outside the camera frame. So I think in times where we have identified things live, we have used Eyeball to immediately get more knowledge of the player, because maybe we didn't know the player before we saw him live, but there have been access to him on Eyeball for some time, so we can go directly in and get more information, and that allows us to take step 2 or step 3 or even step 4 faster than we would have done otherwise.
Because otherwise, what would you have done?
Yeah, then of course we would wait to see him live again, or maybe get more information from the network or something like that. But it puts us in a situation of control where we can decide ourselves through games. For us, that's the most important thing, is to be in control and to be thorough in the process.